WPTV.
Welcome back to the desk. The season on the hardwood has come to a close, but first, the season debut for the baseball and softball team has arrived. We have a lot to talk about as both teams are playing in tournaments, but first, Chris Douglas will talk about what we have missed. Chris?
There was a lot of good postseason basketball between both the men and the women. The men had a miraculous underdog run as they snuck in as the 6th seed in the NJAC tournament on the last game of the season. They would go on to upset NJCU and TCNJ on the road to make it to the NJAC tournament championship, but against the Ramapo Roadrunners. They got defeated by them, unfortunately, after their valiant effort was not enough. We will be saying goodbye to 3 seniors, Richie Espinal, who made the NJAC first team, along with Dapo Badmos, who made NJAC honorable mention, and George Sapp. The women, on the other hand, had a lot less luck in the NJAC playoffs, however. They would be able to get an opportunity to partake in the ESAC tournament, where they would take home the championship. They would beat NYU 52-48 to secure their banner. Unfortunately, the women had to say goodbye to Tori Wetzel, a fitting performance in her final game as she had 17 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks, and she was awarded all NJAC second team honors, along with the ECAC MVP tournament.
Thank you, Chris Douglas. We wish the best of luck to our graduating seniors in their future endeavors. Now switching back to baseball and softball, starting with baseball. The baseball team starts out the season 3-2, started out 0-2, then won 3 in a row. Justin, we'll start with you. What have you seen from this team so far? What has impressed you?
Well, I have to say that in the first 5 games of the regular season, the baseball team has impressed me quite a bit. It loses a lot of seniority from last year, but they play well. I mean, they're half an inning away from being 4-1. They're batting as a team, .263 on the season, 44 hits and 24 RBIs. As a team, the pitching staff is hitting an ERA at 1.87. Obviously, the record 3-2. As I mentioned, they lost on a walk-off. What was it, a 3-run home run to lose it?
Yep.
And they're playing some really good baseball. And like I said, there's a lot of youth on this team, so I'm expecting some inconsistency. But as of late, they've been pretty darn good.
Justin, what have you seen?
Going off the youth factor, you would think that they would be a lot more anxious and trying to jump out at pitches and get ahead of counts. But surprisingly, they're being more patient at the plate and really trying to manufacture runs and get a single after single, opposed to trying to just hit the ball over the fence. So that's really standing out to me.
Sam?
To me, unfortunately, though, I don't see too much improvement. I know there's a lot of youth going back what you guys said, but they started off the season almost the same way as they did last year. I know there's a lot of new guys and they're trying to get into the swing of things, but to me, I think they need to get better and start improving themselves. The singles are not going to be enough. Eventually, they're going to need to produce more.
Chris Douglas?
I think so too as well, alongside with that, but the biggest advantage this team has going for them so far is that they're 3-1 at home. It's a huge home field advantage. It's great to establish that early on because in conference games, when things are high and everybody's going at each other in the conference games, you're going to want to have that home field advantage. It helps out a lot in the latter part of the season.
Now they do travel down today to Florida to play in the Russ Matt Central Florida Invitational. We wish them luck in that. Now the impact players going into this tournament and into the future. Chris Douglas, we'll start with you. Who stands out to you? Who's the key player for this baseball team?
The key player for me on this team is Greg Cuevas. He is only a freshman. He has had a great season so far. He has 6 hits, and he has hit in every single game. He's been on base safely, and he's been doing a fantastic job manning third base, filling in some pretty big shoes from the Pioneer team last year. So for him to come in as a freshman and have the start to the season that he's having is huge for this team. Like we said, we already touched on it, they lost a lot of seniors last year, so a freshman coming in and playing like that is outstanding.
Yeah, batting .316, that always helps having that in your lineup. Sam, what do you see?
My impact player was Steven DiGirolamo. He is a freshman as well. Little background, he played for Dumont last year as a senior, he batted .517. He's their leadoff starter. Right now he's batting .250, which is okay. He's only had 5 hits. He shows that he can get on base. He's getting on base maybe once every game, which, considering how many at-bats he has, is not so great. But he does have that ability. Once he can get into playing college ball instead of high school ball, I think he has really good potential to make this team great.
So far this side of the desk, sticking with the youth, what do you guys see? Justin, we'll start with you.
I got to go with freshman outfielder Dan Carter. Now this year he's batting roughly in about the 400s, which is phenomenal. As you can see, he's batting .467, and he has 7 hits. Along with that, he's had 2 multi-hit games going either 2 for 4 or 3 for 4 even. And with that too, he's able to get on base, but he has the ability to steal bases too. As his senior year, he stole 20 bases in Bloomfield High School.
Justin McHugh?
You know, Samantha mentioned before the kids translating from high school to college baseball, and it's a big difference. So the hitting isn't always going to be there. That's why I went with Corey Martinez, one of the better pitchers in his pitching staff. He has a 1-0 record so far, below 1 ERA, and his 11 innings pitched, he's only allowed a batting average of 1.58 with opponents. The hitting isn't going to be there every day. Again, there's a lot of youth in this team. There's going to be inconsistency, and this Pioneer lineup can't rely on them hitting over 400 for quite some time. So the pitching staff at times is going to have to carry, and it's going to be on Corey Martinez and the rest of the guys to do that. Yeah,
the pitching staff definitely has a lot more veterans and returning guys than the starting lineup. A lot more youth in the starting lineup. Now when they travel down to Florida, schedule's a lot easier than last year, so hopefully this time, you know, in 2 weeks when we return, their record will be a little more one-sided to the win column. But switching over to the softball team, they need to pick up some wins. They are 2-4 right now, but 4 games were against 24 top-ranked in the 24 in the country. They're traveling to Kissimmee to play in their tournament. Justin, how important are these games for the softball team now that they're 2-4 and they've already started a little slow?
Well, yeah, they play those 6 games in Arizona, and it's probably going to be the stiffest competition they play all year. That's not taking anything away from the NJAC opponents or anyone in Kissimmee. But like you said, 4 of their 6 opponents were in the top 24, one of them being the first-ranked team in the country. They're batting as a team .264. They have 42 hits on the season so far, 23 RBIs. The pitching staff is where we're going to take a hit, and I'm talking about that later, as they're allowing the ERA of 5.29 and the record only 2-4. But I wouldn't worry too much about the record. Once again, their opponents have been extremely tough. I think this 10-game stretch is really important coming up in Kissimmee. I think they should aim for a 500 ball if they can to build up some wins and build up some confidence going into the regular season back in Wayne, New Jersey. Because, yeah, they're playing good opponents, but you don't want to lose to anybody. So I'm sure the losses hurt a little bit.
Justin?
Going off of Justin with playing 500 baseball, 3 of their losses were within 1 run. So obviously they are close. So the record is, yes, they are below 500 now, but they could be a lot closer. So really just going into spring training down there, they should really just focus on not necessarily trying to win the games, but also just get closer and just score more runs.
Sam Woods?
I think these are really important for them. Again, with like the baseball team, they have a lot of youth coming in. Most of their players are lower classmen. I think these games are important because I feel like if they get, of course we want them to win, but if they get all their losses out now against players who they don't usually see, they can win. I want them to win at least half. I think that would be a good start for them. If they can come off a win like they did last year, once they come home, they'll really get the morale and the feeling of everything from being home, and hopefully that can push them to win. I think that these games, they just try to get them out of the way, get closer as a team, and then they can start winning here at home.
Chris Douglas?
I think that they need to have an ace step up out of this pitching staff somewhere along the lines, because they lost Ali Podmajersky last year, who was an absolute star for this team. So there's big shoes to fill in that regard. An ace and a second starter would be crucial for this team, and this 2-week period is your time to try out a bunch of different pitchers against a bunch of different lineups. So this is the 2-week period to figure it out.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have, but up next, Joe Rea returns with this year's review of the Olympics.